Microphone check, 1 2 1 2. Just realized I didn't even have my mic set up here. Episode number 47. You think I'd have it down packed by now, right? What up, Fat Finger Squad? We got S Move in the building. Who else we got in here? We are going to be doing a simple Hsrp lab today. As y'all can see, that is the topology we're going to be working with. 3 routers, router 1, router 2, router 3, plus a switch. And just by the judge of this little topology here, y'all can tell the labeling and cabling has already been done, right? So am I going to be using GNS3 today? Am I going to be using Packet Tracer today? Am I going to be using EVE-NG today? Am I going to be using CML today? Well, it's none of the above. I'm using my hardware today. Y'all know what it is. You hear me loud and clear? That's perfect, man. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes for the late stragglers to come in. Y'all know we always tune in. We always stream Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But, you know, sometimes I'll find some people, you know, stumbling onto this channel and be like, oh, this dude got a fire channel, man. Let me see what this is about. And let them, you know, let them tune in and see what this is about here. So anyways, this is where we usually lab from. This lab guy right here, 101 Labs, Cisco CCNA version 4. You can get a copy of this from 101labs.net, or there should be a link in the description box below. It'll take you in an Amazon link. It's an affiliate link. So I do get some commission if you get the book from there. We're going to be working off of page 265, lab number 60, implementing Hsrp. Y'all know what that stands for, right? Hot Standby Routing Protocol. It is a Cisco proprietary first hop routing protocol, or FHRP they like to say. There's so many damn acronyms in this field. CCNA, Hsrp, FHRP. Next lab is VRRP. They just abbreviate everything nowadays, don't they? Well, that's the way this field works. I don't know if it's just something to make us feel special or what, but like I said, I'm gonna give y'all some time to label and cable it up. So if you got Packet Tracer, go ahead and drag and drop a couple routers just like this here. You cable them up just like so. Like I said, I already got the cabling done here on my lab here. I have, what am I gonna have here? I got this right here is switch 1 for me, is gonna be a 3750. It's a 24 port 3750. I bought this thing off of eBay. One of my favorite switches, man. Actually, it's my only favorite switch, version 2. It's the 24 port version, running I think iOS version, what, 15 maybe? I hope so. I think it's iOS version 15. Yeah, because I remember when I bought it, it had version 12 on it, and I upgraded. No, it had yeah, it had version 12, and I upgraded all on the version 15. So this is, I don't think it's the latest version of 15 though. This is 15.2, I believe, latest version of iOS. SE, I want to say this SE14, 15.4, maybe SE14, something like that. I don't know. And then I have router 1 for me is a 19. What is that? I want to say that's a 1921 router. Let's see here. Like I said, I already did the labeling and cabling, so like I said, I'm gonna be a little bit prepared more for these videos here. Like I said, this I have hardware, actual hardware. I got it cabled up, you know, just like the way it is in this topology right here. And then we'll start in about 5 minutes. So whatever you guys are using, if you're using Packet Tracer or if you're using EVE-NG, we got my man Endrit in the building. The salesperson for EVE-NG over there. He the one that got me to actually start using it. And you know, for once I was using it for, I think maybe what, 1 or 2 streams we used it. I don't remember, but I said let me go back to my trusty dusty hardware. So I got router 2 is a what is that? That is so yeah, router 1 is a, yeah, it's a 1921, and then router 2 I believe is a 19, what is that? This is a 1841. Good to kind of know those models if you just by looking at them, but you would think I would know them by now, being that they sit in my in my bedroom here. So that's an 1841, and then router 3 is an older, I believe, 2811 router. Let's verify that though. Let's verify that. Show version, and they are wipe clean. So I start with not really a basic config. I just make sure that domain lookup is turned off. Yeah, it's a 2811. So that guy's a 2811. What else we got on the agenda today? Like I said, we'll start in a couple minutes here. Rest in peace, DMX, man. We was just talking about that the other stream, man. It was like, hopefully he pulls through, but you know, his brain was in a dead vegetative state. They just basically was like, they probably was going through the paperwork. Hey, it was like, hey, look, you know, do you want us to try to resuscitate? And they probably couldn't anyway. So, you know, he probably had one of the greatest runs in hip hop, man. DMX, man, poor dude, man, because yeah, and he was a very spiritual guy. He put a lot of I used to listen to him back in the day. You know, he used to put a lot of little biblical, you know, references and prayers in his album. You know, he was I wouldn't say misunderstood guy, but he had contrasting ways. You know, like, you know, he'll talk about, you know, certain things in his music, but then at the same time he had a spiritual side in his music. So that's what was pretty dope about him. And all of us are, and I wouldn't say contradicting, but all of us have polarizing personalities in a way. So you know, he's human. It just so happened that you know, he lost his life to, you know, to, I believe it's an overdose, right? So, you know, rest in peace, DMX, one of the greatest MCs to grace the microphone. So anyways, I hope you guys are ready to lab. If you have any questions, you know, put it in the chat there. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Again, we're going to be doing a Hsrp lab. Y'all give me a second. Gotta get my water in. I know I get my water in. 1 gallon a day. Yeah, man. Rest in peace, DMX, man. One of the greatest runs in hip hop, man. I remember when he dropped It's Dark and Hell is Hot. And it was a fire album. But prior to that, I remember a mixtape that had dropped. It was a mixtape. I don't think it was him, but somebody had dropped a mixtape. I don't remember. Maybe it was local or what, but it was a DMX versus Cannabis mixtape. I don't know if you guys remember Cannabis, but yeah, both of them had fire, you know, songs on that album, and that dropped right before Dark as Hell is Hot. And then probably like 6 months later, he dropped another album. Both of them was like #1. And at the time, you know, we didn't have streaming back then. You know, I know I'm showing my age now. But yes, he actually sold like, I don't know what, 1 million something CDs or whatever. Even and they had tapes back then too. So he dropped that album. 6 months later, he dropped his second album. I can't even remember the name of that album though. I want to say Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, or something like that. I don't know. On the album cover, he's like drenched in blood or whatever. But that was his second album. That went #1 too. And I want to say he had like 5 albums. They all debuted at #1, man. So he was one of the greatest artists ever, man. Anyways, so yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I hope you guys got your stuff labeled up if you're using an emulator. Again, Hsrp is you know, hot standby routing protocol. It's a way to kind of like, it's a failover situation, right? Or solution. They call it an FHRP, which is first hop redundancy protocol. So, in other words, you might have your first hop is considered your default gateway, right? The first hop. That's why they call it a first hop redundancy protocol, because not only is it a first hop for you, but we created redundancy for it. So if your first hop dies, then you have a second way to get there. Case in point, let's say this is router 1, right? And your local area network sits behind it. Now, I ain't got enough space back here because I cut this thing off. You would think I would have been prepared for this, right? The local area network sits behind router 3. The internet is back here somewhere, right? So we got router 1 connected to the internet back there, right? And then we got 2 ways to get to the internet. We can go to router 1, or we can go to router 2, right? So we got 2 ways to get to the internet. In case router 1 dies, we can still get to it that way. But if our default gateway is pointing to that way, and they die, then all of these computers that sit back here need to figure out a way to get to the other default gateway, because their gateway is 10.2, whereas the real gateway was 10.1, right? We have to manually do that, right? Well, Hsrp, the solution to that is by creating what's called Hsrp Groups, right? We have what we call an Hsrp virtual IP, or sometimes they call it a VIP, not very important person. So these two routers, what we're going to do is we're going to put these routers in what's called an Hsrp group, right? Hot Standby Routing Protocol. It's developed by Cisco. There's another first hop redundancy protocol. It's called VRRP. That's actually three of them. There's VRRP and GBLP, but I think only Hsrp is on the CCNA exam. I don't know. I'll pull up the exam topics in a little bit. But we're going to put these two in a group. And these two guys, even though his IP is 10.2, 192.168.10.2, and he's 192.168.10.1, they're going to share this virtual IP address. And everybody on this local area network that sits behind here, so all these computers back here, they're not going to see 10.3 as their, they're going to see 10.3 as their gateway. But this router right here is going to see 10.254 as his gateway. So it's going to create an illusion when we create an Hsrp group. We'll make like an illusion like this is one whole router and they share the IP address of 10.254. So even if router 1 dies, he's still going to go to 10.254. He doesn't know who actually is 10.254. He just knows, oh, that's my default gateway. That's how I get to the internet. And that's what we're going to do here, right? So y'all give me a second. Now, y'all with me so far? Anybody any questions or anything? Y'all let me know. You know, put in the chat room or whatever if you have any other questions or whatever. But yeah, Hsrp is we implemented at my job. I've gotten asked questions about this on the last 2 interviews actually, and I got questions on them and I was able to answer them, stuff like that. So this is really an important topic, and I believe it's on the Cisco exam. So let's verify that. If it's in the book, we know it's gonna be on the exam. But let me pull up the exam topics. Let me stop talking on my ass here. Let me pull up the exam topics just to be sure, right? So let's see. Exam topics are CCNP, 101 Labs, CCNA, books and exam topics, 101 Labs, Control F, Hsrp. Hey, don't say it there. Do we do FHRP? FHRP? It ain't there. I'm pretty sure it's on the exam though, so hop. Next hop. There you go, right there. See? So even though it don't say Hsrp, this right here, this bullet point right here says describe the purpose of first hop redundancy protocol. It says that should have been plural right there. There's 3 of them. GBLP, right? Gateway load balance. GLBP, sorry. VRRP, and what we're covering today, Hsrp. That's considered a first hop routing protocol. So even though it says describe, it's good to at least know like how to configure it. And that's the thing about these exam topics. They tell you configure and verify. They want you to actually know the commands and how to configure it and verify it and stuff like that. This right here, first hop redundancy protocols, they tell you just want to describe it, at least talk about it, and when it came out and some of the features and things like that. But it's good to at least know hands-on. That's why I love this book, because if you know the stuff hands-on and how to configure it and stuff like that, you know the concepts. Like, for example, so I talked a little bit about Hsrp, right, and what it is, right? But let's talk about some of the concepts about it, right? So with Hsrp, they have what's called the active gateway or router, active router, versus the standby router, right? The active router is the one that is physically the one we're going to be pointing our traffic to, right? Even though we have a virtual IP, one of them is going to be the active router. Let's say router 1 is the active router for now, and then router 2 is the standby router. When he sends his traffic, he's sending it to the virtual IP because he don't know who is router, who is router 1 or router 2. He just know that his default gateway is 10.254, right? And then, but the traffic is actually being forwarded to the active router, right? But when this one dies, guess who's gonna take over? You guessed it, the standby router. So then after that, all his traffic is gonna be going this way, right? But he don't know that. He just knows that it's 10.254. Because we're creating what's called an Hsrp group, because these two guys are going to be in a group, and then router 3 just again he sees an illusion of one big ass router, even though it's 2 physical routers there. Y'all with me so far? So let's go ahead and do that. Start talking shit and get to lab in here, right? So page 250, sorry, not 254, 265 of the book. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is the book we use, right? 101 Labs, Cisco CCNA version 4. You can get a copy of this from 101labs.net, or there's a link in the description box below. Task 1 was to, says here, hot standby routing protocol is a protocol that allows you to have redundancy at the core level by having two routers acting as a default gateway, just like I explained, right? By configuring a priority level on the router interfaces, you will determine which one acts as primary and which one acts as secondary. Now, even though it says primary and secondary in the book, the actual terms for HSRP are active and standby. The active one is the primary one, where most of the traffic is going to go through, even though we see an illusion of one router. And then the standby is the secondary router. Now, keep that in mind for HSRP. The other two protocols, GLBP and VRRP, they use different terms for their primary and standby and secondary router. Just know that HSRP uses active and standby. So that's one concept y'all need to know. So what else they say here? As a Cisco engineer, blah, blah, they put that in everything. They could have saved a lot of text by just leaving that out. Of course, we need to know this for the CCNA exam. So task 1 to configure the host names, router 1, router 2, router 3, right? Which I think I've already done, right? So this guy's router 1, this guy's router 2, and this guy's router 3. That's the beauty of me having my hardware and not having to do that part. I hope y'all know how to do configure a host name. I'm pretty sure y'all do. And if y'all don't, let me know in the chat, or let somebody else know in the chat. There's a bunch of people in here to help you. Even if it's a simple task, I will help you guys along with it. Help you guys along. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Don't be afraid to ask questions and stuff like that. I'm bringing all you guys along with me while we're doing the simple stuff. All of this stuff, I ain't gonna say all of this is simple, but we're gonna be doing the simple stuff. And once we get to the CCNP level topics and maybe CCIE topics, it's gonna be a lot harder, and we're gonna have time to show you how to configure host name or IP address, things like that, right? So ask the dumb questions now, but just remember, there's no such thing as dumb question. So task 2, configure the IP addresses on the gig 00 interfaces of router 1, router 2, router 3. So we need to do that IP address, this IP address, and this IP address, which I'm pretty sure y'all know how to do if y'all been tuning into the network. Task 1. So router 1, we need to go to that interface. Let me make sure I cabled them correctly, right? Because if not, let's see, gig 00 is up, so I did cable it correctly. I'm pretty sure I did though. I'm just triple checking. Always verify y'all work. Y'all know how I do on this channel, man. Verify your work and then run a show command to verify it again. Interface GI00, his IP address, and again, your interfaces might be different. You might have fast Ethernet interfaces, or address 192.168.10.1, subnet mask of /24.0. No, shut that bad boy. Oh, he's already up, so we can verify our work. Show IP interface brief and 10.1, and he's up. Right, so let's go to router 2, do the same thing, right? I love my hardware, man. I know Indrit is over there like, man, this dude over here using some damn hardware. Man, come on, man. I showed you how to use even G, man. Well, guess what? Remember show IP protocols? That didn't show us the gateways or the networks that we were advertising out of, what was that, EIGRP. So I'm mad at that for even G for that. Interface GI, I don't think I have a gigabit on this interface. So like I said, your interface might be different, right? So router 2 right here for me, right? I don't think I've got gigabit interfaces on here. So let's triple check. Show IP interface brief, and sure enough, I don't. I have only a fast Ethernet, so I got to do that, right? Again, your interfaces might be different. Let me know if y'all have any questions or anything like that, man. IP address 192.168.10.2/254, right? .0. And we got to do the same thing on router 2. I don't think we have to do any configuration on switch 1. This guy's just going to act like a hub. Not necessarily a hub, but we don't do any configurations on it. So don't get too hung up on switch 1. So let me go to router 3. Let me make sure I gave him 10.2, right? Yep, he's 10.2. Configure terminal interface GI. Nope, he's a fast Ethernet interface. So this is the only one with a gigabit interface. The other two I've got fast Ethernet. So again, your interfaces might be different. 192.168.10.3/24. Shut that bad boy. Show our work. Show IP interface brief. And he's 10.3. Our interfaces are up and up. And task number, that was task 2. Configure the IP addresses, right? No. 192.168.10.254, this guy right here, will be the HSRP address shared between router 1 and router 2. Just like I explained, right? HSRP, what we do is we put routers in groups, or even switches, layer 3 switches, in a group, and they are going to share what's called the virtual IP address, or VIP, or VIP, whatever you want to call it, right? So task 3, configure HSRP on router 1 and router 2 as follows. What we came to do, right? We came straight to our task. We only got 5 tasks today, so we're on task 3. We about, I guess, halfway done there, right? So we're going to create HSRP group number 100. We're going to create the virtual IP address of 192.168.10.254, which is that guy right there. We're going to create router 1 as the primary gateway. Remember what I said about primary and standby, right? Or secondary, rather. But remember, we don't call it primary and secondary. For HSRP, we call it the active router and the standby router, right? What's going on, Coles Tech? I ain't see you in a minute, man. Y'all visit my man Coles Tech. He got a great channel as well. Don't know if I got a link to it, but yeah, y'all check him out, man. I know you got a great YouTube channel as well. So, so what were we at here? HSRP. Yeah. So they also said router 2 is going to be the secondary gateway. So this guy is going to be the secondary gateway, right? So he is the first guy. He's going to be active router, and this guy is going to be the second router, just like I said, or secondary router, just like I said in the example earlier. HSRP routers should, HSRP routers should send hellos every second and detect a failure of a router in 3 seconds. So that's the other thing I guess I didn't really point out earlier in the lecture. I guess that's what I'll start doing, is lecture in the beginning, talk shit, and then some current events, and then we'll talk about, we'll get to configuring, right? So HSRP routers send hellos, just like EIGRP, right? We say hello just to verify our neighbor, right? So in this case, we're not creating HSRP neighbors, we're creating HSRP groups. We'll have peers, but they're configured in groups, right? So the book says they want us to put it in group number 100. So like we said, these guys are going to be creating an illusion of one router, and they're going to be in a group, and we're going to group it as 100, right? Well, that's notified, right? As stated right there, right? So, and then they say hello. The router is going to say hello every second. They want us to send it every second to detect a failure of a router in every 3 seconds. So there's a default timer for these, though. So we got the hello timer. We're going to keep saying hello, and then we have kind of like a dead timer. When we don't hear like we don't hear the other neighbor, or in this case, peer, HSRP peer, doesn't tell us hello back, then we're going to consider him dead, right? And they want us to change the default here. Now, the default, I want to say, is every 3 seconds, and we consider him dead every 10 seconds. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, though. So let me pull that up. As a matter of fact, I do have a white paper that tells us this. Let's do this. Timers. Yes. Look at that. Do remember that. Look at me. Okay, so the HSRP timers right there. So by default, the timers are set to every 3 and 10 seconds respectively, which means that the hello packet is sent between the HSRP router every 3 seconds, and then the standby becomes active when the hello packet has not been received every 10 seconds. So just like that, y'all know why we say these neat videos, right? That guy that's down the street, we keep saying hello to him every 3 seconds, right? If he don't say hello to us back within 10 seconds, we consider him dead. That's the default. Well, they want us to change those timers from every second. We're going to say hello every second. Hello, hello, hello. And consider him dead every 3 seconds. So we're just going to create a kind of like a faster detection of failure here, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to, oh, my bad here. Where's he at here? Appreciate it. Been neck deep in SD-WAN. That's what's up, man. I need to get some SD-WAN training in as well. Active and standby. Yes, isn't that what I said? No, I thought I said that. But yeah, active and standby router. But yes, the primary, there is what's going to be the primary router and a secondary router. But with HSRP, the terms that they use is just like SF said, the active router and the standby router, right? And remember that term standby in this concept here. So first, we are going to go to the interface, right? When I first started doing this, I needed to remember, because like I said, I took the CCNA about 2 years ago, right? And tried to remember. Don't you got to go to the, what was I thinking? I was thinking you just create the Hsrp group out the fly. No, you have to go to the interfaces that's going to be participating in Hsrp. So in this case, with router 1, we go to that interface. Router 2, we go to this interface. Well, this guy, he's not going to really participating in Hsrp. He is going to be using these two guys as his default gateway. But again, he's going to see the illusion of one router with his virtual IP. So we're going to be setting his as default gateway. Right now, what do we have him as default gateway? We'll go to router 3 and check, right? So router 3 show IP route. I don't think he has default gateway. See, he does not have a default gateway. So, but let's just see if I can at least ping these two guys for now, right? Just verify basic connectivity, right? So let's ping. If I cabled up, right, and these old ass routers I got on eBay, then this should work, right? 10.1. Praying to the network guys, and we got a reply there. So now let's try to see if we can ping router 2, right? So he is 10.2. Pray to the network guys, drop a ping, and we got 4 replies. Good. So we got some basic connectivity there, right? Now, can we ping 10.254? Do you think we're going to be able to ping that? I'll tell y'all right now. That's not y'all pop quiz for today. But no, that is not even configured yet. Nobody has that address yet, right? So that's what we're going to do when we configure Hsrp. So let's go ahead and go to router 1, go to that interface, and remember, we put the interfaces in Hsrp. We can have another interface out here and another interface out here and have them participate in different groups. Router 1 could participate in 2 different Hsrp groups. Maybe he's, he's just promiscuous like that. He's just going in another group and he's participating in another group. Maybe we had another router here. We could do that if we really wanted to and create complex, topologies here. But that's not what we're going to do, right? So we're going to go to global config mode, interface GI00 in this case. And we say the command for that is standby. And we put the group. They said they wanted group number 100. And then, now, I remember when I first did a run on this, and that's what another thing too, I started doing practice runs just so I know what the hell I'm talking about, right? If you just put in standby and then create the IP address group, well, guess what? It's going to put him in a default group. Guess what that IP address will be? I'm sorry, not the IP address. What group will be? Now this is a very, very, I'll be surprised if anybody know this one, but that's your pop quiz for today. What group is he going to be put in if I don't specify standby group number 100? Because they asked us to put it to 100. If I don't do that, what group is he going to be put in, right? So I'll put in, let's just go to router 2 while y'all think about that, right? So we know we need to put him in standby group 100, right? So interface, it's not FA, it's not GI, it's going to be FA in this case, right? So standby IP, the IP address is going to be 190. No, we don't want to do that yet. We want to put the group first, right? See, I almost made that mistake again right there. I did not specify the group. We need to specify the group. Did I do that last time? I'm trying to figure out how I made that mistake last time, but let me not do that, right? So standby 100, the IP address, the virtual, which we're going to do, right? If I click question mark for the context sensitive help, it'll tell us what do we need to do here. We need to put in IP to enable the group, right? Or the IP address. So IP, and then the IP address, the virtual IP is going to be 192.168.10.254. Do we need to put a subnet mask? Yes, we do. No, we don't. So we don't need to put the subnet mask. That's what's weird. Interesting. So we'll just leave that as is, right? And then I think that should turn on Hsrp if you do that, right? We'll verify our work with show standby. Even though y'all know the book always lets us wait until the last task to run our show commands, but y'all know the network, bro. We don't, the Fat Finger Squad, we don't roll like that, right? We run our show commands early, right? Show standby, and right now we're active with the active router. And look, we just got a message, and I should have waited for a little bit so y'all can see that, right? So we got an Hsrp type message, right? It's a level 5 message, right? We got a state change on a Fasten Ethernet 00, which is this guy right there. I know it says gig, but my interfaces are different. We put him in group 100, and he went from standby to active, right? So there's different states in a group too, right? Let me pull that up real quick for y'all. What are Hsrp? Did I close that window already? Right here. So we have these states right here. We go from initial. This is the state of the start. So when Hsrp starts, it goes from initial, and then it goes. I'll leave this white paper for y'all to kind of go over. But most likely it may or may not be in a book. FFS, Fat Finger Squad, right? That's what's up, man. What's going on, Pete? Good morning, wherever you at. But it's evening over here. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I forgot where you at. But those are the Hsrp starts. It goes from initial to learn, to listen, to speak, and then it goes to standby, right? When he realizes, oh, nobody else is the active router, Okay, all right, then I'll just be the active router. That's what happens, right? And that's what happened in this case. I wish I would have ran that show command earlier. Y'all would have seen those states, but it went immediately to active. If y'all see, it didn't really. First, it went from standby, then it went to active. Those other ones, I would have had to run that show command really quickly for y'all to see. So, did anybody figure out what group it puts it in? If you don't put them in a group yet, if not, let me show you. I just do standby, right, and give him the IP address of 192.168.10.254. Let's see what happens here. And I do a show standby, but I might be breaking something here. And look at that. It put him in group 0. And right now, he's immediately in listening state, right? So he went from initial, learn, listen. Let's run that command again. He's in speak. So now he is speaking. The router sending periodic hello messages and actively participates in the election of an active and or standby router and cannot enter speak state unless router has a virtual IP address, right? And let's check that again. Now he's in standby. And we went from standby to active. And notice we got a duplicate address. That's what I meant by us breaking the Hsrp here. We got a duplicate address sourced by this MAC address right here. This is what's called the virtual MAC address that is shared by Hsrp routers here. I was close. With what? I don't remember what you were saying. 1? Oh, yes, you said 1. Yes. So the default group is 0. But when we did that, we put him, when we did not specify what group he is in, it put him in group 0 right there, right? So that's, you may or may not, they might not ask you that kind of question, but that's something that's very rare for you to know. You know, just by, if you don't specify what group it's in, it's going to put it in group 0. But, and notice we kind of broke something here. Because I did not specify what group it's in, it put him in group 0, and then it said, hey, wait a minute, somebody already has this IP address, 192.168.10.254, and it's sourced by this address right here. Well, there's something else I forgot to tell you guys. Not only will routers that are in a specific group share this virtual IP address, which right now they're sharing that virtual IP address, they're gonna share what's called a virtual MAC address as well, right? VMAC. And if you pull it up right here, let's see in this white paper if they even talk about it. I'm pretty sure they do. Machine, MAC, virtual MAC address right there. What's the virtual MAC address? Anybody know it? I'll give y'all another pop quiz, right? There it is, right? No, that's not it. There it is right there. So there's this concept of not only do they share this virtual IP address, but they also share a virtual MAC address. And that's it right there. It's a very known MAC address. That's something you may want to memorize as well. It ends in AC01, right? But that's the full MAC address, virtual MAC address that they will be sharing. So let's go ahead and fix this and then get to lab in here, right? So let's go back to global config mode, interface GI00, and then let's get rid of that right there, what I said, right? Then standby IP, no, right? And this will turn off, this should turn it off, right? See, notice active, it went to disabled now, right? Y'all with me so far? We got Lee McMillan in the building. What's going on, Lee? So if I do a show standby now, let's see what we got so far. Nothing, right? So we basically wiped the config clean. So now let's put the correct group address that we said was, or the Hsrp group, we was gonna put those guys in, right? So we go to global config mode, we go back to this interface right here and put him in Hsrp 100, right? Y'all with me so far? Anybody got any questions or anything? So interface GI00, right? So basically I'm gonna put this guy in the same group as this guy, right? We're gonna put them in Hsrp 100. We already put him in 100. We gave him the virtual IP address. We need to do the same thing on this guy right here, right? So standby, we put the, I'll put the question mark so y'all can see, right? But I already know the commands, I'm just showing y'all real quick, right? So we put the group number, basketball stuff right there. We can put a group number of 0 to 255, right? In this case, they asked us to put 100, right? So we do 100, then we put the IP address, or the virtual IP address, which was 192.168.10.254, right? And that should be it. Oops. All right. There we go. And then put that, now notice. Let's see what happens here. Actually, let's run that show command real quick so we can see. Show standby. Right now, he is listening, right? Y'all remember those states? State, where are you at? States. Boom, right there. He is listening. And now he is in standby. He went from speak to standby, right? So now basically router 1 is in standby mode and router 2 is the active mode. Anybody know why? Even though they asked us to put router 1 as the primary gateway and router 2 as the secondary gateway, or vice versa, they wanted it, right? So let's check real quick. Show standby again, right? And he is in standby, just to verify, right? Router 1 is in standby mode, right? So he's in standby mode. Router 2, we go to router 2 real quick and show standby. Come on, man, wake up. Wake up, man. Show standby. You're not even, G. We respond quickly. We're hardware. Show standby, and notice he is inactive, right? What else did they ask us to do here? So we created, they said they wanted us to create the primary gateway as router 1 and to set the Hsrp priority as 100. So that's another thing I want to talk to you guys about, right? So whoever has the highest priority, which is going to be a number between 0 to 255, that guy's going to be the active router, right? So by default, they're set as 100. Well, guess what? We're on router 2, right? Router 2 is that he is 100. His priority is 100. We go to router 1. He's also 100. Well, why is he standby and he is active? Well, guess what? We put him in the group first, and he said, anybody the active router? Okay, I guess I'll be the active router. Right? So he became the active router. He came on board into the Hsrp group number 100, and he said, oh, somebody's already the active router, so I'll be the standby router. Just in case he died, I'm going to take over as the gateway. Right? So he became the standby router. Well, how did that happen if they're both 100? Well, that's because he came up first. That's the reason why that happened, right? So they're tied at 100. Now, what the book wanted us to do was create, like we said, we wanted to we wanted to make him the active router and him the standby router. That's what they wanted us to do. When we're right now, we got it vice versa, right? So the way we do that is by changing the priority, right? Another concept we need to know about is preemption. Notice right there it says preemption disabled. That's on router 1, right? Let's go to router 2 real quick, and what does his say? Preemption disabled. Well, you know what preemption is? Preemption allows us to kind of like take over as the active router. That's basically what that means. So just think of the word preempt. That's basically what preempt means, right? You kind of like taking over, or how do I say? Not precede, but you basically taking over. Right now it's disabled. Whoever has the highest priority, don't matter what the case may be, if preemption is enabled, it'll allow you to take over as the active router. So even if I changed him to 100, theoretically he should still be standby, even though he got the higher priority, right? Let's test that theory out right now, right there. So they said make router 1 the primary gateway by changing his priority to 100. Well, guess what? He's already 100, right? So I ain't got to change that, right? I'll show y'all. Router 1. He's already 100. So I ain't got to change that. Let's go to router 2. They said they wanted us to change that guy to 200. I'm sorry, to 90. Right? So they want us to create a lower priority on this guy right here and make him the standby router, right? So let's try that real quick and see what happens. Go to global config mode. You probably already guessed what's going to happen here, right? Interface GI, no, it's going to be FA00, right? Your interfaces might be different. Configure preempt as well. Yes, exactly, Coles. That's exactly what we got to do here. So we got to configure preemption. So we got the hang on. Over. What was I going to say here? Oh yes, so the preemption right here. So we got to do the priority first. So standby priority. They said 90, right, for this guy, right? And see what happens. So we do show standby. See what happens, right? Show standby on router 2, right? Show standby. If I can type, notice, didn't I change it? Standby is still 100. Who did I change? Could have sworn I changed it. Oh, I probably did it on. Wasn't supposed to do it on that group. Oh, Fat Finger Squad in the building. You know what? Router 1 was not supposed to have. Yeah, he did. So router 2. Don't touch router 3. We're not touching router 3, right? So group 100. Did I not change it? Priority 90. Interesting. oh, you know what? We need to go to that group and do it first. So let's do that. That's probably what I didn't do. So interface GIFA00 standby 100. That's what you got to do there. See, standby 100 priority 90. So if you don't specify the group, you just saying the priority. It's not going to take effect. So that's probably what happened there. So now I'll do a show standby, and right there. So we configured it to 90, right? Priority is 90. It's configured as 90. By default, it was what, 100, right? So we go to router 1. He got the higher priority right now, right? Show standby again real quick, right? But notice he's still in standby mode. He got the higher priority, but yet router 2 is still the active gateway. Why? Because preemption is disabled. So we need to enable preemption for us to take over as the active router, even though he got the higher priority. So even though router 1, this guy right here, is set to, his priority is set to 100, his Hsrp priority is set to 100, and his is 90, he is still the standby router, and he is still the active router. Why? Because we did not set preemption. So that's another concept you guys got to remember about Hsrp. Yes, Cole's with the spoiler alert over there. But anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and enable preemption and see what happens, right? So let's go to router 2 and do that first. Let's enable preemption here first, right? Even though he got a lower priority, it don't even matter, right? So standby 100. Notice most of the commands that we do when we're working with Hsrp begins with the command standby. That's why I said try to remember those terms, active and standby, when it comes to Hsrp. VRRP and GLBP, they have different terms when it comes to the active and the standby route. I mean, the priority and the secondary router. So standby 100, we said we wanted to enable preemption, right? So preempt, right? There in group 100, we got preemption enabled, right? We show standby. Preemption is enabled. But it don't matter. Guess what? Why? Because his priority is set to 90. He got a lower priority. So, of course, he's not going to take over. First of all, he's already the active router, right? So, he's pretty much the primary router. And then this guy is the standby router. He's set to 100. So, we need to enable preemption on that guy right there. We need to enable preemption on router 1, right? So, let's go ahead and do that. Router 1. Go to global config mode. Y'all with me so far? Anybody get any questions or anything like that? We got a lot of smart people in the chat room there, so if I'm not able to answer, we got some people in there to answer the questions as well. So interface GI00. Now let's do standby 100 preemption. I'm sorry, standby 100 preempt. And let's see what happens. We should say hello. And notice we went from standby to active. That's this guy. So now he should be active, right? And we can verify that with what? Show standby. So stand by, and we are now active, right? Remember, we were prior to that we was standby mode. So now we're active. And let's go to router 2 and take a look at what's going on here. We went from active to speak, right? So we went from active to speak, right? Speak is what? The router sends periodic hello messages and actively participates in the election of the active and or standby router. A router cannot speak on a state. A router cannot enter speak state unless the router has the virtual IP address. Well, he has the virtual IP address, so he went from active to speak. Then he went from speak to standby, right? So he went from active, then he went to speak, then he went from speak to standby. So now standby is the router is a candidate to become the next active router and sends periodic hello messages. With the exclusion of transient conditions, there is at most one router in the group and in standby state. So that's what happened there. That's exactly what we wanted, right? Perfect. So the next task was, well, it's the same task. Let me hurry up and wrap this up, right? Hsrp routers should send hello every second and detect a failure of a router in 3 seconds, right? Let's go ahead and check out what our timers look like right now. Well, actually, we can run that command again, and you can see right there. Hello time is every 3 seconds, just like I said earlier, right? We say hello every 3 seconds, and then our hold time, or dead timer, I like to call, a lot of the hold timers, they like to call, I mean, a lot of the dead timers, they call it hold timers. So sometimes they go hand in hand, right? You say hello every 3 seconds. We consider our neighbor dead, or we just, considered our peer as a failure we don't detect a neighbor after 10 seconds. That's what's going on here. That is the default timers, 3 and 10. The book wants us to change it from 3 and 10 to saying hello every second and detect a failure of a router in 3 seconds. So let's go ahead and do that on both sides, right? Did they say on both sides? Yes, they did. They said Hsrp router. So we got to go back to global config mode. We set those timers again on the interfaces. So when we're doing Hsrp, we don't go on to, we just go on the actual interfaces. If it could be a virtual interface like interface VLAN 1 or whatever. But in this case, it's physical interfaces, GI00. And when y'all get a chance, you know, kind of like play with a different topology, try to freestyle and come up with a different topology. That's what I ended up doing last time. I tried to do this off my head and I realized, oh snap, I didn't even have a hub in the middle, and I was setting up physical interfaces because I tried to set up switches to become Hsrp routers and EIGRP groups. EIGRP neighbors, and I started experimenting with that. So kind of like mix up these topologies so that way you see how they interact with each other and stuff like that. So interface GI00, they said they wanted the hello timers to change, right? So standby, we go back to that group, standby 100, right? Question mark for context sensitive help. And it says right here, where can we do that with timers? Right there. Oh, that's easy, right? Hello and hold timers, right? They said 1, we need to do 1 for the hello. Question mark again, you'll see, oops, my bad, you got to put timers first. Come on, network. Timers, right? We said the hello interval in how many seconds? We said 1. Question mark again, and you'll see they want the hold time in how many seconds? They said 3. So 1 and 3. That's how you got to do it. Standby 100, timers 1, 3, right? Press enter, and then so this basically going to detect it's going to detect a quicker failure in this case, right? Because by default we're going to say hello we consider him dead every 3 seconds instead of waiting 10 seconds like we did earlier, right? So we had to wait about 10 seconds to see this happen. Now we're gonna wait every 3 seconds. Y'all see, I'll even unplug it for y'all to see, right? Can you do that in EVNG? Oh yes, you can, but it's nothing different. It's something about physical hardware of being able to unplug it. But anyways, we're almost done. Router 2. Let's change his timers. Interface FA00. We said standby 100, timers 1 and 3, right? Is that what we said? And then we do a show standby and see what we got now. Last time we said it was every 3 and 10. Now we set it to every 1 and 3, right? That's our virtual address. This is the address that I was telling you guys about, the virtual MAC address. When we had that duplicate IP address, they said, hey, somebody with this virtual MAC address got that IP address already. What you doing, man? And we had to make sure we change it from group 0, which is the default group, to group 100, which is what they asked us to do. And that's what happened there. Remember, this is a a virtual MAC address. So not only are they sharing, these two guys right here are sharing this virtual IP address, they also share this virtual MAC address. I'll even show y'all, right? So that's router 2. He got that MAC address, right? That virtual MAC address. He has a physical MAC address, but this is the virtual one that he's sharing. We go to router 1, show standby. Not only did our timers change like we did, but he also has that virtual MAC address, right? So that is something you want to memorize as well. Also, they want us, the Hsrp routers should authenticate their communication using the key CCNA. So they basically want us to create a password. Remember, this is not really done for security purposes. This is just a way for us to authenticate our Hsrp peers. So, it's highly unlikely that somebody will, unless somebody's really good at creating a virtual router and then having it, join an Hsrp group and stuff like that. But, authentication can kind of prevent that. But I believe this is in clear text anyway. But anyways, go to router 1 and create authentication. And notice what's going to happen when we do this too. Go back to that interface. So interface GI00 and a standby 100. Notice all of these commands, they started with standby, right? Standby 100. And notice right here, authentication. So they want us to set authentication. What they want us to do, put the word, did they say use MD5? This is basically like a type of encryption. Text, in plain text, or just type in the password. In this case, they didn't specify, so we're just going to type in the password. They said all caps, CCNA. We do this, and notice we are going to detect the failure. Should be, boom, right there. Notice bad authentication from 10.2. Who is that? Oh, this guy is seen as somebody as an intruder. Why? Because he ain't got the key, the authentication key, CCNA. So that's why we got this error right here. Hsrp, this is a level 4 message, bad authentication from 10.2. Who am I? I'm 10.1 and he's 10.2. So I have the password. I got the key. Got the keys, and he does not have the key. That's the reason why we're getting that error there. So let's go ahead and give him that password as well, and wrap up this lab, man. So go to router 2, and notice he's getting these errors right here. Let's see what his state looks like. He's still inactive. The standby router is unknown. Our timers are set. We do have that virtual IP address. But now we're active. So we went from standby. So we're in a group, but now we're active. Remember, he was in standby. So that's another thing you want to notice too. If you don't have the password, and you was in a specific, it'll change your. It could potentially change your state in this case, because remember, he was the standby router. We put the key, and then he became active actually. So now we have 2 active routers, right? So he should be active in that group. And then router 1, let's see, show standby real quick. Show standby. And yeah, he's active as well. So we got 2 active routers in this case, right? Let's go ahead and give him the key and see what happens, right? Go to global config mode, interface GI00. No, he's FA. I keep forgetting. Standby 100 Hsrp. I'm sorry. Authentication. We said all caps CCNA. And let's see what happens. We went from active to speak, right? And now we went from speak to standby. So we went from active to speak, and then we went from speak to standby. So we are now the standby router, which means the router is candidate to become the next active router and sends periodic hello messages. Y'all roll me with that like button if y'all like what y'all see so far, though, man. And if this is the first time you guys are tuning in, this is the book where you normally lab from. 101 Labs, Cisco CCNA version 4. You can get a copy of this from 101labs.net. There's also a link in the description box below. And it is an affiliate link, so I do get some commission if y'all do click it. And we are about halfway through this book, man. This is lab number 60. There's 101. There's really about 120 labs in this book. But once we get done with this, we're going to start doing CCNP topics, which is to be a lot tougher than this stuff that we're doing right now. So tag along, man. So we put the password. What else they wanted us to do here? We created the timers. We put the primary and standby group. We created the virtual IP address. Task 4 was to have router 3. So this guy right here. Have him use the 192.168.10.254 as his default gateway. So basically, right now, who is his default gateway? We already checked that, right? We go to router 3, right, which is this guy right here. And yeah, I believe we checked that. Show IP routes. And he does not have a default gateway, right? Gateway of last resort is not set. They want us to make sure that any traffic that we send from our local area network back here, so all these PCs back here, any traffic that we send to, have it sent to the virtual IP address, which is that right there, right? Which is, again, shared by this guy and shared by that guy right there. So he's going to have the illusion of one router, but there's actually 2 routers that's sitting in this group. If one of them fail, we'll still have traffic going to 10.254, right? So we are basically creating let's go ahead and create a static route. So IP routes, right? We've done a video on static route. If not, if you don't know anything about that, just go on my channel and you'll see how to do that, right? So quad 0, just like that. And then we said our next hop, send that to 192.168.10.254. So 192.168.10.254. Fat Finger Squad in the building. Do we want to set a distance metric or anything like that? We want to name it? No. Let's just call it Hsrp route. Hsrp route. Remember we did that? Named. I didn't even know you could name static routes. That's just something new for me. New since I started doing this lab. And this is another reason why I'm going back to the CCNA topics. Even though I was studying for the CCNP exam, there's a lot of little holes and gaps in my knowledge that I'm trying to kind of, do here, or fill here. And I'm taking you guys along with me. What am I missing here? You forgot to put the word name. Duh. I mean the keyword name. Name. Hsrp. Name. What am I doing? Hsrp Group. Hsrp route. Let's call it that. Route 1. Let's do a show IP routes. And we should see that our default gateway is now 192.168.10.354. Can we ping that? Pray to the network gods and see if we can ping the default gateway of 192.168.10.254, who is an Hsrp router, as seen by router 3. Should be seen by router 3. Pray to the network gods, and router 3 is just hanging there. Oh, I was playing. And he was able to get the replies. Good, perfect. So we should be good to go, man. I think we wrapped up this lab. Task 5 was to just check the status, which y'all know how we do on this channel. We run show commands way before they even ask us to do it, right? When you're doing your work, you're configuring something, run a show command, and then after that, verify your work. And when you're done with that, run another show command to verify your work again. So verify, verify, verify. Yeah, no, like I said, my boss always tells me that every day. He don't even say good morning. He's like drinking his coffee. Verify your work, man. Just walk in the office, man. Anyway, we already did show standby a million times. The other thing is show standby brief. So in case this was a little too much information for you, so we'll go back to router 2 real quick. This might be a little too much information. You just want to get some quick information. You just do show standby brief, and it'll kind of like abbreviate or shorten this this information for brevity, right? So show standby. You can do all kinds of show standbys, right? You can do show standby all, show standby brief. Like I said, we could have, let's say we had another group of routers right here, right? And another group of routers right here, right? We got router 1, 2, he's 3, right? So let's say we have 4, we have 5, right? We have 6, and then we have this. We already know that this is Hsrp Group 100. This could be Hsrp Group 200. That could be Hsrp Group 300. So now we'll have, like, this is why they call it first hop redundancy protocol. In case this whole site goes down, or this site goes down and that site goes down, now, you know, that Hsrp group is down. So guess what? We can send our traffic this way if we had a connection to it. We can send our traffic that way. We configured it that way. So not only we had a Hsrp Group 100 here, we got Hsrp Group 200, we got Hsrp Group 300, so on and so forth. Well, if we had too many of those groups, we can do show standby all and see all of our groups. But notice there's only one group here, right? Actually, yeah, there was group 0 that we configured at the beginning, which is disabled, remember? And then show standby group, that was group 100. And we could also do show standby brief, and it'll show us the active router, right? So right here, interface FA00, which was learned, in my case, hold on, let me move it, get rid of all this other stuff. But y'all get what I'm saying here. It just abbreviates the show standby information that we had earlier. Group number 100, that's the priority. P, and it indicates it's configured to preempt, right? It means to take over as the active router. Right now, router 2 is on standby, or is that the neighbor? I'm on router 2 right now, and I'm seeing that router 1 is yeah, this is my information. So this is my information. I'm standby. I am the active router is 10.1. Who is that? That's this guy right here. Who is the standby router? Local, me. That means I'm the standby router. I'm the standby router, and this lets us know the active router is 10.1. Again, it's him, 10.1, and our virtual IP address is 10.254. That's pretty much it, man. So if y'all like what y'all see, man, y'all leave me a comment down below. I didn't know you can name it either. Yeah, man. Like I said, man, I learn new stuff every day with this book right here. And once we get to the CCNP book, man, I'm pretty sure I'm going to learn a lot more stuff, man. So like I said, I went back to studying for even though I already got this, I'm already CCNA certified. I took the exam about 2 years ago, but I'm still learning stuff every day. And I'm just, like I said, filling gaps in my knowledge and stuff like that. Next time you guys want to follow along, get you a copy of this book. There's a link in the description box below. You can get a copy of this from 101labs.net. Experts agree that we retain only 10% of what we read, but 90% of what we do. That's why I love this book, because it gives us stuff to practice hands-on. When y'all done with this lab, go ahead and try to create your own topology that's similar to this, and try to create your own groups. I'm noticing myself trying to do that as well. I'll do a practice run or whatever, and notice, like, I didn't know about the group 0. I didn't know that would happen if you did that. Maybe, I doubt Packet Tracer would do that. It might even freeze up, or not even freeze up, but it might even not even do that. But, test those little things like that and create your own topologies. Make your own IP addresses, put them in Hsrp groups, What happens if you make this one preempt? What happens if you... There's also a feature called tracking, which we didn't even cover, or they even ask us to do in this lab. Maybe there's another lab they'll have us do in the challenge lab. But, you know, lab every day, man. This is what it's about. And even though I only met lab Monday through Thursday, next time y'all want to tune in, Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's when we do it. That is when I lab. So when y'all get a chance, y'all go ahead and tune in. Make sure you subscribe to the NetworkBruh. Oh, wait. He said, by the way, using paint to annotate the topology really helps getting points across. I noticed that in the last couple streams, and it suits your style. Man, I appreciate that, Pete. I really appreciate that. That's why I said from now on, I'm start bringing up paint and start explaining things that way. And that's another reason why I like using this hardware and stuff like that too. So, because, you know, with Eve or any other simulators like GNS3 and things like that, you guys can actually see the topology. And that's why I was so hung up on trying to use emulators and simulators, because y'all can see it. But now I'm actually using my hardware, and I have these little paint, like I said, the paint topologies like this, and then actually try to, like you said, annotate and stuff like that. But I appreciate that. Appreciate you for noticing that, man. And thanks for tuning in, guys.